Hey y'all, it's Kate from LoveStory, and today we're going to be talking about more nonfiction for Nonfiction November, and today we're going to talk about essays. This video has been a long time coming. I know, like, every day I've said, like, maybe today I'll get this video. It's been a crazy month, a crazy weeks, but I'm finally doing it. So here we are talking about essays, nonfiction, some of my favorite people. I've done a intro to nonfiction video before, and I've done a memoir video. I'll link those here. Go check them out too. You all know I love nonfiction. I got a master's degree in it. It made me love nonfiction writing even more, and I met some amazing people there, some of which I'm going to be talking about today. So, to kick us off with the essay edition of our nonfiction November video, I have to talk about one of my favorite writers of all time, Joan Didion. You hear me talk about her constantly because she's an amazing writer, and so for me, because I love all of her work, I have this big giant collection of all of her nonfiction. But not everyone is as crazy as me and likes these big giant books, so I'm going to talk about two books in particular. I recommend all Joan Didion books. Fiction, nonfiction, screenplays. She's amazing. And she has a new book, I think a new book of essays actually, so perfect, coming out next year in April, which I can't wait for, but I'll talk more about that later. So the two books all of the books that I'm going to mention here are books that I've read. I'll have another little segment at the end of books that I look forward to reading, but at least 80-90% of my recommendations that you'll see on this channel are books that I've read, because I feel weird recommending books, even if they're like supposed to be really good, super hyped up, or I've read the author before. I feel weird recommending books I haven't read. So all the books I talk about are books that I've actually read before. So Joan Didion, highly recommend we tell ourselves stories in order to live, but specifically, if you want smaller editions, check out the White Album, which is a collection of her works previously published in magazines like Life and Esquire. That's what she used to do, that's what she did, that's how she became Joan Didion. The subjects in the White Album, yes, the Beatles CD title. The subjects of the essays range widely and represent a mixture of memoir, criticism, and journalism, focusing on the history and politics of California in the late 60s and early 70s. And that is like Joan Didion's writing to a T. It's so observant, so detailed, it feels like you're right there. Like, it's nonfiction, but it feels like fiction because it feels like you're in a dream. It feels like you are there watching what she's describing. It's amazing. The other Joan Didion book of essays that I highly recommend is Slouching towards Bethlehem, and this is a 1968 collection of essays by Joan Didion that mainly describes her experiences in California during the 60s. So similar to the White Album, but this is specifically in the 60s, whereas White Album, like I said, was the late 60s and early 70s. And that's a lot of Joan Didion's writing. She takes the hard-hitting events going on at that time and writes about them with such clarity and observation and description that it's incredible. I highly recommend Joan Didion. Those two are the White Album and Slouching towards Bethlehem, but all of her work is amazing. And the next book I'm going to talk about is actually a really good friend of mine that I met while I was at graduate school out in Idaho at the University of Idaho. She was also in graduate school, and we became really good friends on a trivia game night, which we were the only two people on our team that didn't really know anything, but our team still won that night. So that was the base of our excellent friendship, and that is Fire Girl, Essays on India, America, and in Between by Sayantani Dasgupta. Sayantani is an amazing writer, an amazing person. I love her to pieces. I hope she sees this because she knows how much I love her. And so this is her first book, and it examines her personal story against the history, religion, popular culture, and mythology of South Asia and her current home in the American West. It's hard-hitting, it's amazing, it's emotional, it's everything that you would want in a book of essays. One of the things I like about essays is it's like short stories. You can read a little bit at a time and you don't have to read it all at once, whereas when I'm reading memoirs, I feel weird stopping in between because I feel like I'm stopping the story. But with essays, you can just read one at a time, a little bit at a time, and you get that full experience. So the next book on my list is, the next two books are actually by the same author, James Baldwin, who is an amazing, iconic Black writer, and his two books, The Fire Next Time and Notes of a Native Son. If you haven't read those yet, you need to go read those because they are just amazing and iconic and a must-read. Thick and Other Essays by Tressie, McMillian, Cottom is a contemporary book of essays written by a Black woman, Tressie, who is in Chapel Hill, I believe, in North Carolina, and she looks at being a Black woman in the U.S., and that's another amazing book. I actually listened to the audiobook version of that one, and it was great hearing her read her own writing. I love listening to writers narrate their own books. And so just a couple more books on our list. Next we have Evocative Objects, Things We Think With. And this is a book I read in grad school, and it's one of those books that you wouldn't think you love, but you can't stop thinking about. And so this is a compilation of essays written by all different people, edited by Sherry Turkle, and they write about different objects from their life that invokes memories or has sentimental meaning, and it's amazing, and it led to some of my favorite writing prompts that I did as a graduate student. And so it's just a very unique idea for a book to be wrapped around just all of these essays like this, and I love it. And the last two on this list are classics. Classic essays, classic writers that you've heard me talk about in the intro. Walden and Other Writings by Henry David Thoreau. This is amazing. Actually, we have 2 copies of it. I meant to get another book, which I'll just talk about. I don't need to read it because it's a giant book. So Walden Thoreau writes about this little pond that is by his house named Walden, and it's where he goes to be by himself and to regenerate, and his writing is so calm and nature oriented, and it's just like a form of meditation in itself. And the last book that I thought I grabbed, but it was just another copy of Walden, is Ralph Waldo Emerson. His collected essays and poems are fantastic. Another similar to Henry David Thoreau. Very nature oriented, very calming, peaceful, philosophic, amazing. And so then quickly I just want to talk about some of the books of essays that I'm looking forward to reading hopefully soon. The Boys of My Youth by JoAnn Beard. The Common Reader by Virginia Woolf, which is a classic. The Collected Schizophrenias by Esme, Weiju, Wang. This is a book that's been on my TBR forever, since I was writing my thesis, because it was about an ancestor of mine who had schizophrenia. But The Collected Schizophrenias is an intimate, moving book written by the immediacy and directness of one who still struggles with the effects of mental and chronic illness. The Collected Schizophrenias cuts right to the core. Schizophrenia is not a single unifying diagnosis, and Esme Wang writes not just to her fellow members of the collective Schizophrenias, but to those who need to understand it as well. And it just is one of those books that I can't wait to read. I don't know how I haven't read it yet, but I'm so excited to read it. And then I was told there would be Cake by Sloane Crosby, which is supposed to be so funny and so poignant and so good. And last but not least is another writer that I got to meet while I was in my graduate program, Rebecca Solnit, who is an amazing writer, amazing activist. She's fantastic, and that is Men Explain Things to Me, which is basically her essays on mansplaining, exactly as the title says, men explaining things to her and other women. And it is, knowing Rebecca Solnit, I know it's going to be amazing. But that's my list of books of essays that I recommend or that I want to read. If you've read any of these, let me know in the comments what you thought. Let me know what essays you're looking forward to reading. Let me know what other videos you want to see me do. Like I've said before, I've read fiction, nonfiction, poetry, all the genres, a lot of the subgenres. I love talking about nonfiction, so if there's a certain writer you want me to dedicate a video to, let me know in the comments. I can't wait to talk about these with you all, and I will catch you all again soon. Bye.